Welcome, family. So happy to have you. Another amazing episode of Learning Outside the Box. And today we have a special treat. I'm so excited to share this with you. So, again, welcome to Learning Outside the Box, the Homeschooling Chronicles, a podcast hosted by myself, Coach Sakile, the proud mama of six homeschoolers and co founder of Embrace Your Free. With over 2 decades of homeschooling experience, I've had the honor of assisting over 7,000 families on their homeschooling and world schooling paths. I am also the operator of the Empowering Black Homeschoolers Unite community and also an author of 10 books dedicated to overcoming obstacles in homeschooling and offering a valuable guidance along with a plethora of resources. So make sure you stay tuned until the end because we will be giving you a special treat, a free copy of my latest copy or my latest book that provides A to Z steps on getting started with homeschooling. So don't miss out on this opportunity to embark on this rewarding educational journey together. So, in this podcast, we celebrate the diversity and creativity of Black homeschoolers, showcasing a variety of stories from families who have found their unique paths to success. Homeschooling is all about learning outside the box, rejecting the one size fits all approach to education, and through interviews and conversations, we aim to answer your burning questions about homeschooling and provide inspiration and ideas for your own journey. So, whether you are a Black family curious about homeschooling or you simply are seeking guidance from experienced homeschoolers, this podcast is the right place for you. So, join us on this exciting adventure as we explore the world of Black homeschooling one story at a time. So, don't forget that sharing is caring. So, please invite a friend or two. So, without further ado, let's embark on this thrilling voyage of learning outside the box, the Homeschooling Chronicles. Get ready to challenge the norm, broaden your perspective, and embrace the limitless potential of homeschooling outside the box. And now it's my utmost pleasure to introduce our esteemed guest today, a person who holds a special place in my heart, my husband of over 2 decades, Vernon. Not only is he a loving and devoted partner, but he's also a remarkable father to our six incredible and brilliant children. But that's not all. Vernon belongs to remarkable lineage, being one of the 14 children in the prestigious dynasty of William and Ernestine Speller. So, Vernon's passion for education led him to study the field extensively, focusing on children's developmental stages. So, throughout his career, he has worked with children ranging from preschool to 12 years of age in various daycare centers and academies. And his deep understanding of the learning process and his ability to connect with young minds have really shaped his teaching approach. However, Vernon's teaching expertise doesn't stop at early stages of life. Mm-mm. As he transitioned into the adult realm, he took on the role of a business coach, helping companies enhance their efficiency, effectiveness, and productivity to maximize profits. In addition to his coaching endeavors, he is a co founder and business coach of Embrace Your Free, an organization dedicated to assisting families in creating and living the life of their dreams. Not someday, not one day, but today. Through the signature World Class Schooling Coaching Program, families learn the art of homeschooling without stress, frustration, and burnout. So he's really helped utilize the world as their classroom in this program. And in this program, families are able to embrace affordable, safe travel in style while making money doing what they love. So, Vernon is a shining example of leadership within our family, teaching our children in a structured manner that emphasizes critical thinking, science, mathematics, investing, business, public speaking, and life skills. So, today he joins us to share his valuable insights and experiences on navigating the homeschooling world, even when faced with different teaching approaches and temperaments. So please join me in giving a warm and enthusiastic welcome to Vernon as we explore successfully bridging different educational philosophies with our different child's parents, reaching compromise that will prioritize the best interests of each child and the family as a whole. So, welcome.
Hey,
So
hello,
happy
hello,
to
hello.
hear. Yeah, so happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be here.
Yes. So let's dive right in. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you, motivated you to take this amazing but not often taken journey of homeschooling?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, first of all, thank you for having me here. It's an honor and a pleasure to be on this awesome podcast. And this is a beautiful thing that you're doing, Sakile, for the homeschool community and the black community specifically. And really, really love what you're doing and honored to be able to work with you on this. And normally I'm behind the scenes, so it's cool to be in front of the camera. It's a little bit different. so, but so to as far as what inspired me to get into homeschooling in the first place, and we have our oldest son is 20 years old. For the folks who may not know, so been doing this for quite a while. So in the beginning, the original motivation was to be able to teach our children specifically the things that we wanted them to get involved with and be exposed to really have a hands-on approach and not be worried that they weren't getting it in school or they're getting the wrong thing taught to them in school. Not be worried about that, not be complaining about what the school is doing and not doing, but saying, you know what? So me and Skila actually talked about this before we had children, and while we having children, we're having discussions about this. We've had multiple discussions about this. But so it was, you know what? Hey, we can actually bring some things to the table and share with our children the things that we want them to know, specifically Afrocentricity. We wanted them to get into entrepreneurship. We wanted them to, or at least have an understanding of entrepreneurship and business ownership, how to start a business, how to run a business, how to grow a business, investing, how to accumulate money, how to take care of money, how to, uh, and then multiply that money once you have it, once you have accumulated it, and how to multiply that money investing, i.e., investing. We wanted them to get that understanding. We wanted them to make sure that they got a really good understanding of interpersonal dynamics as well. We both recognize the importance of that, or, i.e., the soft skills. So we're like, you know what? We're not going to just depend on the school to do this. We're going to make sure that our children are getting this, and we have some. As Sakile was saying, we have a background. Me and Sakile both have background learning about education and childhood development, and as well as school age and teenagers. I've worked with them as well and learned on that level as well, and have done some coaching and have a family history of being in education and being in coaching. Brothers and sisters. My father was an educator. My mother was an educator for us at home. So it's a real history of personally doing that. Sakila, you immersed yourself in that as well. So we're like, you know what? Hey, let's make sure this is being done, and who better to do that than the parents of the children? And so that was a real motivating factor. Another motivating factor was just the reality of looking at the school systems and what our options were, and saying, you know what, our children may not get what they need in these schools, and from what we're seeing, a lot of the schools they weren't going to get what we wanted them to get. Not that they weren't good schools or what they weren't going to get some things other parents made. And shout out to the teachers. Once again, I have a family history in education, so no shade on the teaching or educational field in general. Much love and respect and appreciation there. You know, um, but we wanted to make sure that our children were being taught the specific things that we kind of came together and figured out that we wanted them to learn. We wanted our children to make sure that they had that experience. And also, and we'll get into this a little bit more later, but there's another component to that. We wanted to be able to travel. And it's, you can do some traveling when your children are in school, but we wanted to do more traveling for business. We're involved in, we're business owners, as you all know, with Embrace Your Free, but we doing it at that time. We were just getting started in business, so we wanted to take the whole family to events, to conferences, to different personal development things we were doing. To as we were on our journey to learn how to be business owners and to grow our business. So We wanted to be able to take the families also just on vacation. If we wanted to go somewhere and stay for a month, we wanted to be able to do that and not have a threat of our children missing in school or being punished in school. So that was also a motivating factor. So it's a couple of different things.
Awesome. I love it. So you have various factors in terms of inspiring you and motivating you to take this path of homeschooling. So in the background, I hear tropical birds and dogs barking. Can you tell us like where you're located at this time?
Yes, yes, we are still doing that travel bit we talked about, and over the last several years, actually, we really embarked on a really exciting adventure. We did a 50-state tour of the United States, and we took the whole family out and just really just went on a big adventure and visited each one of the states and spent a good amount of time there and more time in some other states than others. But went and visited different states. Really had the children get a chance to learn Black history on the ground in these different areas, and it's really amazing how Black history is not just nationwide in the United States, but also worldwide. And that kind of gets to the tropical birds. We are gearing up for our 100 country tour, as we call it. So we've been visiting different countries, and right now we're in Central America and Mexico specifically. And that's what you hear now. It's beautiful near the equator, right off the Caribbean Sea. So it's really beautiful, really nice weather here. Stays around 80, 90 degrees, pretty phenomenal. And yeah, you'll hear some chirping and of tropical birds behind me from time to time.
Awesome. So on this journey, you mentioned, traveling, being able to and make sure that the children have the different values, the principles, the different things that you want the children to learn. Are there any other benefits that you've noticed that maybe were unexpected of homeschooling that you noticed with your children within yourself or the family overall?
Any unexpected benefits of homeschooling that we're noticing? Let's see. You know, you kind of suspect it. Everybody thinks their children are awesome and amazing and so wonderful. Everybody, all of us believe that, and they are. Our children are wonderful. In their own ways, and everything is. I like to say everything is in divine order. But um, going through homeschooling and actually experiencing how your children can blossom and how they can pick up on different concepts and how they can learn and how they can actually take that. We have older children now, how they're taking these concepts that we've shared with them and that we've introduced them to other teachers as well. These different concepts that they've learned about life and business and whatever their interests are, and being able to take that concept and implement it is awesome to experience. It's one thing to think about it and expect that your children can do that. It's another thing to see them doing that and really flourish and really comparing them to where I was at their age and just experiencing that and observing their growth and how they're developing as young people. There's one of the big things is the soft skills, their interpersonal skills, and their self confidence, self awareness is tremendous, and that's one of the biggest things that's really cool to see. And one of the big things I can look back and say, wow, I like where our children are, how they've developed and where they are, how they interact with people, how they their self image, and where they are right now, especially in comparison to kind of where I was and what was going on with me at similar ages. So that's really cool to see, and kind of you think you have an idea of it, but actually experience it is a whole other thing. So that was not necessarily unexpected, but it's more than I even expected. I
Yes.
thought maybe.
I understand. And one of the things I love about you as a co-parent and spouse and educator to our children is I'm always hearing like how proud you are. Like yesterday, or I think it was like the day before, you were just talking about our two older sons, and you're just like, our oldest son is like a savant. He's so smart and just like genius level. And the other son, he just catches on things so quickly. And it's just like the pride and the joy. And it's not something that you're saying to them. You're like just, or with other people, you're just sharing it with me. Like they're constantly blowing us away. So yeah, and that is one of the big things I'm always impressed with is I didn't have a lot of confidence in terms of as a child, not a lot of self-esteem and in myself. And our children are so confident. Like their confidence is like just if we can bottle it up and sell it, it's
Yeah.
amazing. Like they have this level of self-assuredness. And also they have amazing people skills. Like their people skills are way ahead of me. Because when like the stereotypes is when I began home or before homeschooling, I just thought homeschooling children were strange and awkward socially. They like were just closed off all the time and they just didn't really know how to interact. And that is not the case. We have adults coming to us constantly like, I just wanted to meet you because I met your children and we're so impressed. And, or our children giving us adults numbers saying like, we had a conversation with this person and they were so impressed and they wanted to know who these parents of these amazing children were. So here's, I gave them your number. And so that's always amazing. So I'm just agreeing with that part. Let's see, we have a
Yeah.
comment. Since both of your families are world travelers, is there a home base you can comply with documenting for your education compliance, or are you off the grid? That's a great question. So we'll get into that. We'll do a question and answer, and we'll get into that at the end. So
So
we got you.
it's one family.
Yes, one family.
Yeah,
So
we're at the same location.
yes. But we are working with over 100 families currently we're working with and helping them travel the world. And we can talk
Yeah,
about that, how to make sure that it's legal and all of that. So great question.
absolutely.
And we will
Uh,
definitely answer that, Rhonda. So another question, I want to talk about some of the challenges. And this was one of the challenges that we had to overcome. Many of the families that we work with come to us and one parent is like all for homeschooling and the other parent is really hesitant. Like I was saying, like my ideas of homeschooling before were like really strange, socially awkward children that were, just part of like these religious cult like things. That was like, sorry, that was my stereotype. And it wasn't black people, it was only like, yeah. So we can understand why there can be some resistance to homeschooling from one of the parents. So that is something that we had to overcome. Like both of us weren't on board originally when it comes to homeschooling. So what would you tell a parent that is interested in homeschooling, but the other parent is not? Like, how could they share with the other parent that this is a path that can really provide all of the parents' goals and so much more?
yeah, that's a great question. That is a phenomenal question. I'm just jotting down some notes here to make sure I don't. I want to make sure I hit a couple of key points around that. And from my experience, and for like you mentioned, the parents that we work with, kind of what we've seen, I want to share coming from that perspective. Okay, so yeah, that's a phenomenal question. Thank you for asking that, Skilla. So first and foremost is to sit down as a couple or as co-parents and come to an understanding um, with each other, kind of where you are, what you like to create for your child, where you are as individuals, what your expectations are. Second thing is to, and I'm going to elaborate on this in a second, but I just want to give you these 2 points. But second thing is to actually, if you want to get a parent, the other parent doesn't really believe in homeschooling, doesn't really see the value in homeschooling, whatever the case may be, they're second guessing, whatever the case may be, and you want to get them more understanding and actually agreeing with the children in homeschooling and comfortable with that and actually supportive of that, especially if it's a male. I can speak from the male perspective, especially, but similar for the female as well. But especially if it's a male, you're going to want to show them actual evidence. Action, and what I mean by evidence is examples of successful homeschooling families. If you all can go to some events and maybe meet some parents who have children who are like our children in the 20s and teens and who are doing well and doing businesses, working, or whatever. Just or maybe they're in, on the university if they chosen to go the university path. But you want to introduce them to actual parents and actual older children. Let them see them, and that is more valuable than your telling them. You know, it's just reality of it. Just seeing, especially from another party, really helps. Just the reality of it sometimes. It's tougher to hear things sometimes when you're in a relationship, some sort of relationship, whether it's your spouse or if you're, like I mentioned, a co-parent. It's tough to hear sometimes, from the other person. You're just kind of voicing each other's opinions, but introducing them to other families is indisputable evidence that, hey, you know what, we can do this. They can do, if they're concerned about them having and being academically strong, you can introduce them to children who are academically strong. So wanted to share that real quick. And real quickly, I want to share this from my own experience. And like you mentioned, our kind of how we were when we first were introduced to homeschooling. And I was similar. I didn't have experience with homeschooling. I was coming from a family of academics. My father was literally a university professor, so he's big into academia. He wasn't really when we started me and Sakile first started homeschooling our children. My father actually questioned what we were doing, literally questioned what we were doing, and wanted me to explain why I was doing this and how our children how I was going to make sure our children were solid, learn what they needed to learn. He had concerns, and before that I had concerns as well. So on a personal journey, how did I go from that to where we are now? Is kind of what we're just talking about, being exposed to homeschooling and actually learning about what actually the process is. What are the different avenues of homeschooling? There's many different types of homeschooling and avenues you can actually journey down. It's not a one size fits all. It's not a just my vision of homeschooling was a mother or father sitting with the children in their living room or whatever, and it's like a classroom. They're in there from 9 in the morning or 8 in the morning until 2, 3 in the afternoon, and you're trying to teach these. However many we have six, so Sakile or me will be trying to teach our six children. Basically, what would we call it? Basically simulating the standard classroom that I remember growing up. Or I envisioned kind of a little house on the prairie type of a thing where it's like a little schoolhouse, one room schoolhouse. And that was my vision of homeschooling. I thought that's kind of what it was. And I was exposed to what homeschooling can actually be. I was exposed to Sakile had some friends who were homeschooling, and our family friends, you know, uh, that we all become friends over the years. But so getting a chance to be around them and their children, hearing their stories, seeing the results of their children. Some of them have children older than ours. So seeing and learning about how their children had been homeschooled and had businesses, some of them had gone to university and were in strong professional careers, various types of levels, and are excellent individuals and going and getting married and had children and now are building families and are awesome individuals, and just seeing firsthand the benefits of what homeschooling can be like. Okay, the principles and values that your children are learning throughout the day are the principles and values that you want them to learn.
Mhm.
Just to be frank about it, that's it. That was for me. That was really important. As I saw what was going on in the schools, that's one of the things that I was concerned about. So as me and Sakile were introducing to homeschooling, and Sakile shared more and more information with me about homeschooling, and she learned more about it. One of the big things for me was like a light bulb was like, you know what? Okay, I'm concerned about school. I'm concerned about what my children are going to learn in school from the teachers. I'm concerned about what my children are going to experience from other students and be gone and out of my presence and be with someone else a majority of their waking hours, or awake roughly 16 hours a day. They're going to be somewhere else, learning from somewhere else, having experiences with people outside of my uh, sphere of influence. Largely, I can be influential somewhat. I can be attend um, uh, the parents student meetings. I can make sure we're a presence at school, and I think that's important. Don't get me wrong. I think that's very important. And if you can find an excellent setup, I definitely support parents who are taking that path. They found a good school, they're involved, or they're making the best of the situation that they have. I definitely no shade on that. Definitely respect, to the parents who are doing that. Like I mentioned, that's the majority of my family, my 14 siblings, 13 siblings, excuse me, my 13 siblings. I believe we're the only ones who are homeschooling. So I have respect and love for that path, and you can definitely grow and develop a strong family through that, and have excellent children come through that. So no shade on that, but for the opportunity that we saw was that, hey, you know what, we can actually do this. We can homeschool with our business schedules. We want to introduce them to business. We want to make sure they have a strong Afrocentric upbringing. We can do this at home. We can do this within our schedules, and and it's a strong possibility. Looking at the other families, our children are going to be good. not only are they going to be good, but these children are coming out awesome. The ones that I had the chance to see, like, man, this is awesome. We can do this, and this is going to be great. And we're not alone. That's another thing we found out too. It wasn't just going to be us, trying to struggle and do this on our own. There's actually a strong community nationwide and actually worldwide. Really, even as the years go on, it just gets even stronger and stronger as more and more people are excited about homeschooling and world schooling. So that was a huge component too.
Absolutely. I love it. And I want to piggyback on what you were saying, how when you are able to homeschool, you tend to be a larger part of the influence, the sphere influence on your children. And what I noticed is when I would go on the street and people who had children in public school, a lot of them were constantly complaining about their children. Like, they don't listen, they're so disrespectful. And they were just like straight up would tell me they don't like their children, right? But then when I would meet other homeschooling children and, their parents actually enjoyed their children and being around them. And that's a testament that I've seen in our family. Like, I really love the people that my children are. Like, they're awesome human beings. They're respectful, they're kind, they're thoughtful, and they're just amazing human beings that I can be around all the time. Like, I'm just so excited that our daughters are 18 because I'm just like, oh, these are going to be like my bosom buddies. These are the people that I'm going to go shopping and hanging out with and having a good time. So it's just like being able to homeschool our children, we're able to mold them in a way where they become amazing people that we actually like. They're not so molded by mainstream society, which is not really aligned with our values and principles for the most part. And your father, so it's like, oh, we'll get a great question. So we'll get into that. Yay! The same way. I love being around my daughter so much, right? They're like amazing human beings. And and people would be like, oh my God, you have daughters? Ugh. And I'm like, I love my daughters. My daughters are amazing. They're like, what about the attitude? I'm like, what attitude? They're sweet as can be. So that is like one of the amazing benefits that I found in our family is that we really enjoy our children and we want to build like a family business and an empire. But that would be really hard if you don't share the same values and principles and you don't really like each other. So we really cultivate an environment where the children like each other, where we can't really get away from our children. They always want to be around us. Even the teenagers, they love being around us because of the environment that we've created and what we've cultivated, which is one of the great benefits. Okay, well, awesome. Can you speak a little bit on um, one of the things that we address is like you're Charlotte Mason and a lot more structured when it comes to your homeschooling, and I'm more eclectic and unschooling. So, can you talk about how, like, once we got on the same page that we're going to be homeschooling, how did we come onto the same page since we have very different learning styles? Well, not learning styles, but our learning styles a little
Teaching.
bit different, but very similar. But our teaching styles are very different. And then for the first part of their childhood, I was the one doing most of the teaching. But as they get older, you're the one that does a lot more of teaching to the like older children. Do you want to speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Another great question, and this kind of goes back to the other part of what we were talking about. Is going to stem from that anyway. So, the first thing is that sit down and coming to an understanding as a couple or as co-parents, and really getting to understanding what your actual goals are, understanding what your expectations are, and then I didn't really talk about this. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but also going over what your experiences are as parents, or what your own educational experiences are, and understanding that because that influences. I know it influenced us in terms of how we were thinking we wanted to educate our children. Even though on a conscious level we were like, we had these kind of grandiose ideas. When we first started out, we started doing the same things we were raised and the way we were taught, we started out in those ways. So it was we kind of made a conscious effort to, you know what, okay, let's kind of figure out how we want to do this. And once we understood what our goals are, we knew each other, where each other were coming from. That helped tremendously. So it wasn't we ended up. I don't think we ever butted heads teaching style wise, and I think it comes from that base understanding that we have, in terms of what we wanted to create, and then we having a good understanding of each other, because we've done this over the years for our business as well. So we had a pretty good understanding of each other. So it wasn't a surprise to me. Your eclectic teaching style wasn't a surprise, and the other ways that you want to work with the children, the unschooling methods that you like to implement, it wasn't a surprise because I understood that from your other aspects of your personality, if that makes sense. So I kind of expected that, and I'm sure you weren't really surprised with my approach and how my brain works and kind of how I wanted to work with the children and make sure the things that were important to me. And we talked about it too. We actually talked about them. So we just kind of crafted our curriculum and how we wanted to work with the children in terms of homeschooling and world schooling out of that understanding of each other and understanding of what we wanted for the children. So it came from a really good place. So that really helped tremendously. So we kind of crafted like for instance, our school day is a mix of both of our teaching styles, especially particularly when the children were younger. We have some not really standard, but we have some specific lesson time in the day. We have some more of the unschooling kind of method time where the children are out and doing their thing and really pursuing their interest and have free time and playtime. And so we have a mix of different things throughout our children's school day that satisfy both of our desires for the children and how we believe is the best way for our children to learn. We have that throughout our day. And then another understanding that really helps, and I'll encourage my homeschooling fathers and homeschooling, or I should say parents, who are wondering if they want to do this, is to really look at the examples. I think that'll help, and also look at the different methods. So it's another thing that really helped, and not being scared of whether your eclectic style or your unschooling style, was understanding that those methods are effective, and understanding that those methods have benefits that the Charlotte Mason style that they say have, what is it, classical and Charlotte Mason, I think my testing came up as, they have benefits beyond what mine have. And I don't have an issue with the children learning in the ways that you want them to learn. I actually see value in that. It may not be my primary teaching style, but I see value in them doing and them developing in the ways that you want them to develop in terms of more unschooling, in terms of kind of a child-led learning techniques. I see the value in that. I've seen examples of children doing that and doing very well in kind of a child-led system. I've seen how different groups of people will kind of use that technique and get great results. This whole teaching methods around that, and whole schools around that. I've had a chance to see that when our children were very young. And so I had those examples to say, okay, I don't have a problem with them learning in that way. And let's make this happen. I do want them to have some specific things that I think are important. But we took all that, what I just said, and we're able to work together really harmoniously. It really worked out pretty well to craft a curriculum that I like. I like the results that we're getting with our children. Our youngest is 10 years old, so he's going through it. And him and the 12-year-old, the teenagers are going through it on their level. But I'm really liking, the results that we're getting. So the proof was in the pudding. The examples ahead of time really helped. But so I think that was a big help. So I'll say this, Sakile, I don't want to belabor this, talk about this too much longer, but just I want to touch on this. So if somebody is not at that stage, though, say you already have children and they're in school and you're looking to take them out of school, and your the other parent isn't really feeling it, how do you address it at that point? And I would kind of go back to the beginning and have a sit down. And this may take multiple. This may not be you show them and you just magically change your mind. That probably is not going to happen. It's probably going to be a process, of showing them information, sharing with them different homeschooling things, and try to make it a collaborative thing, not you're stupid, you don't know what you're talking about, you're trying to kill our children. Let me do this. I know what we're supposed to do. Don't try not to make it a thing like that. Try to make it a collaborative thing, like, hey, this is some information that I've seen other parents have success with their children, and and using what we call a third party. In business, we call it the third party. Third party is better than the first party. So take it off of you and put it on, hey, this can be great, get great results for our children. Other people have done this with their children and gotten great results. I know you're really concerned with them getting the academic things they need, and I respect that. You're really concerned with them going on and having a successful career after, if that's the case, if that's what the concern is, or you're really concerned with their social development. Hey, these parents were able to do this, that. These kids were able to get great results in school, be really strong academically. They were able to have great careers. They were able to become great, awesome in terms of their social development, and they have strong emotional intelligence. Their EQ, that's the buzzword lately. I've been hearing a lot. Their EQ is really good. Their IQ is strong. The EQ is strong. And these are children who are homeschooled. This is a homeschooling group that's going to support us, and they have a track record of success. These kids have gone through and had success. There's current children in there now who are having success. So really, a conversation around that, I think, will really be strong. And then, like I mentioned before, a conversation around on a personal level of getting to know what your what the other parents' goals are, what their expectations are, what their experiences were. Having a real talk about this, and once again, this may be a process. It may happen over maybe a couple of weeks or whatever, however long it takes. But I think however long it takes, it's worth it. And then sharing your things as well. What are your goals? What are your expectations? What have been your experiences? Why this is important to you, what your concerns are, really just having a conversation about that and trying to make it as collaborative as possible. And uh, yeah, as collaborative as possible. And so it's more of a conversation and as opposed to an argument or you trying to convince them type of a thing. So I just
Absolutely.
wanted to share that. I think hopefully that'll be helpful for the parents who maybe aren't where we were 20 years ago and maybe they're halfway through it and trying to make a change.
Yes, I agree. Those great points. And I also wanted to talk a little bit on exactly how we were able to combine. It really helped that I was eclectics, which means that I was okay with adding some unit based, some Charlotte Mason, some classical, some traditional into the classroom. Like I was open, but I still wanted it to be more child led. So the child would be motivated also to learn. And so I noticed in the chat, we can dive into this later, it's great that they're wonderful human beings, but did they learn skills? And so, absolutely. So, like the first part of the day, like from 7 to 9, would be academics, where they were doing their mathematics, their reading, their writing, their language arts, their history, their science, and we would combine it. So, maybe they would be doing reading, but they would be reading a science lesson. Maybe they were doing penmanship, but they were also doing learning African proverbs. They were writing those over and over again. We'll have a discussion. Maybe they're doing math, but we're dealing with also some word problems. So dealing with some real life critical thinking solutions also with the math. So we would have the academics, but then we also would have from like 12 to 3 real world learning where they're going to museums, where they were doing internships, they were working with experts, which is big with the Charlotte Masons, working with experts. So they got skills working with master gardeners, so they know how to grow, identify, harvest. They worked in, and then also working in farmer markets. So they were able to do like from the beginning of seeding all the way to, selling it, preparing it, taking vegan cooking classes, doing the bike shop where they were taking orders, building, repairing, selling bikes, and making a profit so they can sell a bike and get $200 in their pocket at 8, 9, 10 years old. So flying airplanes at age 8, right? Learning how to change a tire, uh, replace brakes, all of those, real life skills. Plus, they were doing coding and like so they would do the real life thing, internships and museums and stuff from like 11 to, well, from 12 to like 2:33, 3:30 to 6 is when they were doing their sports and actual classes with the other children. So they were doing cooking and they were doing basketball, swimming, football, gymnastics, capoeira, drumming, piano, photography. all of those different classes. So just because we're unschooling or we have different approach doesn't mean that they weren't learning tangible skills and also having the academics. I feel like they learned so much more than they would have been possible in a typical classroom because there's so many hours, so many students, and a lot of these programs that they things that they learn were not even a part of the traditional curriculum. So I just wanted to add that. And yes, join the group. So, Vernon, thank you for sharing.
Yes. Can I throw a jump into that?
Okay,
You
because,
mind?
okay.
What's up?
Well, just time. I was going to get into what you did for income, but you can,
Okay, okay. I'll make this real quick. Is that okay?
yeah.
Try to keep it to a minute or two. Okay. So I'm just going to add on to the skills thing. So not only, Sakila, you laid that out beautifully, so I won't. I was going to reiterate what you're saying, but I won't even reiterate that. I just want to add one thing to that. So not only did they learn their skills, those hard skills I like to call them. So yes, the soft skills, got it. Hard skills, and Sakila just went over, got that. But there's another component to that that I really like about what homeschooling and world schooling allows you to do. We're actually able to reach the children who are what typically, I forget the exact percentages, but there's a percentage of children who are not very well reached in an academic setting, who are generally kind of left to the wayside. So it operates on a bell curve. So there's a segment of children who do really well in an academic setting, kind of the traditional sitting in a classroom setting, and then there's children who are kind of in the middle, who kind of just kind of make their way through. That's most children actually. Then there's a segment of children who hate it, and then it's kind of a mix of that. So I was kind of a mix. I'll take a personal real quick. Personally, I was a mix. So I did really well in testing, but I hated school just on an individual level. I mean, literally hated it. I hated going to school. Fortunately, my parents were on the education side, so I liked education. I liked learning, but I hated the process of school, sitting in the classroom. So I was really fortunate. So I didn't actually learn to disdain for learning. I actually maintained a good attitude about learning, but I did develop a very bad attitude about school, which it took me until I was upper teens, 20s to really get out of that and really get an appreciation and understanding that don't worry about the school and whatever teacher or whatever or sitting in the classroom and whatever. Get over all that and really understanding of how I can use schooling and education to further my person, whatever. It took a little bit to get to that, but homeschooling allows us to reach those children, and we've seen it within our own children, where we can tailor our homeschooling to reach the different types of children, whether they're academically learning, whether they're more tactile, whether they're more kinetic, whether they're more lecture style, whether they need to be more hands-on and actually up and presenting and talking. We got all that within our 6 children, and we're able to meet each one of those different personalities and get it to the point. So the proof of this and the fruit of this is that all 6 of our children love learning and love the process of what we're doing. So different things about it, different ones like different things, but each one of them have, and we're able to capitalize and really stoke the fire of what they do resonate with, if that
Yes,
makes sense. So we're able to find that for each one of our children, stoke that fire, so they all have a great attitude about things and excited about doing what they're doing and are doing things at a very high level, if that makes sense, as far as their learning and their skill level, skill development, which is exciting for us.
absolutely. Such great points. I love it. So many families want to know, like, okay, you're homeschooling. How are you able to financially afford this type of lifestyle where you're able to homeschool? And yeah.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely, absolutely. So start with currently, or do you want me to go from the beginning?
We have a couple minutes, so you can either, you can give a quick synopsis and then you can share how families can work with you.
Okay. So current, start with just deal with the current stuff, or talk for parents starting out.
You can do both.
Do both real quick. Okay. So starting out, what we did was, um, I was actually working. Let's see, this is back in the early days. So I was working, and we really controlled our budget, make sure our budget was solid, so that we had the time to Sakile so we didn't have to just put our children into a daycare. We managed it where Sakile could have a significant amount of time with the children. I was working at that time, And my business was in the very early stages, so just getting started up, not a whole lot of income coming in, but I was working as well. So my days were pretty full, and my days off, and I would do my part as far as homeschooling goes. When I was home, I would chip in here and there. Sakile would keep me up to date with what's going on, and that just progressed over time, and we were able to do some of what we talk about with Embrace Your Free now, and with our world schooling program that we have and part of Embrace Your Free, and I'll talk about that in a second. But we were able to actually create an income for me where I could travel more, I had more independence. So I set it up where I was location independent, and I set it up where I was well before I get fully location independent. I set it up where I was more time. I had more control of my time. I got into freelancing. I got into consulting, where I could tailor my schedule around our traveling. So we travel periodically. In the early days, we would travel maybe on the weekend. We would travel for a week here or there. And so I got into consulting work and freelancing work where I can make a significant amount of income in a more of a just concentrated amount of time. And then I could take a week or two and we could travel. Sakile had incomes. Sakile, we started the beginnings of Embrace Your Free. So we started bringing other income with Sakile and different things that she was doing. And that was location independent. And then we kind of developed that over time to where we are with Embrace Your Free now. And then I still do some freelancing consulting work as well, and that's location independent. That's all via the wonderful technology that we have, and I'm able to work with clients and do coaching. I do coaching and consulting with clients, with business owners, and then we have Embrace Your Free, which you see at the bottom of my screen.
Oh,
I'm a co-founder of that with Sakile. What's that, Sakile?
oh, no, it's fine.
Oh, okay, okay, you pulled that up. Awesome. Yeah, so we have Embrace Your Free, which is at this point we've developed it out over the last several years to be a suite of products. And our flagship product, our main product, is the world class schooling program. And we actually have, excuse me, we actually have a free workshop for world class schooling, which is going to be this Monday. So we actually work with families to help them on their path. We work with them in terms of homeschooling and parenting, and helping to share with them the things that we've learned and studied over the years and implemented, and connect them to different resources that we have in terms of parenting, in terms of homeschooling, excuse me. We work with them as well on the travel side with family. And Sakila can elaborate on this a lot more. She does a much better job of explaining all this to me, but we work with them as well on the travel side and on the world schooling side and helping on that process. We work with them, and this is where I come into it. We work with them on the business side or on their career, on the profession. I actually started out in the corporate world, so I have experience in that as well. And I work with kind of in the corporate sector in terms of my consulting. We work with our families, our world schooling families, who are, whether they're an entrepreneur or whether they're working a 9 to 5 or some variation of that, in terms of creating a more of a situation where they can travel more, whether that be like us and they want to get completely location independent, or whether they have a solid job and a position which they love and which they want to continue, but they want to be able to navigate the world schooling and traveling with their family, kind of make it more on their time and be able to do a little bit more. We assist them with that as well, and I work with them on the business coaching side, on the life coaching side. In that aspect, that's my specialty and how I contribute on the world class schooling program largely. Sakile runs the larger concept of world schooling, the homeschooling, the parenting. Sakile really spearheads that, and I assist kind of from the background. But and that is our core ways of making money right now. Working with those, we have some different investing things that we do. We encourage everybody to get involved in investing, whether it's real estate or stocks and things like that. But that's a kind of a side note. But just in terms of building our community, we want to be investors, business owners, and investors as much as possible, and strong professionals as well. But so that's money making in a nutshell. Hopefully that was clear.
That's awesome. So, if our family members would love to get in contact with you to find more about homeschooling or get support or business consulting, how would they reach out to you?
Yes. To learn more about homeschooling, parenting, world schooling, it's really simple. My email is vernon@embraceyourfree.com. There it goes. And then if you want to kind of check me out and contact me in terms of more direct business consulting, individual, one on one, or group, we also do group business coaching as well. We have a couple of courses that will teach you do that a couple times a year. You can reach out to me at Vernon at embraceyourfree.com as well, or you can reach me on LinkedIn, and you can kind of see information about me and kind of see kind of what we're about and how we work with individuals on that aspect on LinkedIn. Check out my LinkedIn page, and you can connect with me on there, or like we had up before, that email is a great way to reach me.
Absolutely. Well, this has been phenomenal. Let's see, we've been getting so much love. Nice. I signed up for the workshop. I'm inviting a few friends. Yay! Please do. Please do
Yes.
share.
Yeah, share that link. Share that link.
Yes.
Embraceyourfree.com. Feel free to share that. It's a free workshop. You'll walk out of there with tangible things, with tangible tools that you can implement right away, things that can help your family, help you in your understanding with your children right away from that workshop, and help your homeschooling process, make it more smooth, make it go a lot less stressful, a lot less anxiety around your homeschooling if you're experiencing that right from that
Yeah.
workshop. And
Avoid the
some tips as
burnout,
far as
the
yeah,
stress, become more confident, have more
yeah.
fun.
Yep. So share that, and join us this Monday. It'll be worth the time, and your friends will thank you.
Yes. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick commercial break. And then we're going to come back and open it up for questions for the next 10, 15 minutes. So, are you good? Okay. So, let me get ready. Uh, oops. So, let me turn this ticker off. Let me pull this up. Okay. So, today we are sponsored by the amazing one and only Innovation Academy. So they have sponsored us, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about them because their program is just amazing. So, before we proceed, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge our generous sponsors for today's event. It is a great pleasure that we thank Innovation Academy for their unwavering support and bringing you this phenomenal message. Innovation Academy is an educational institution dedicated to sponsoring or really reimagining education, which is amazing. So they have a groundbreaking approach to online learning, right? So they've truly reimagined the virtual education landscape with their immersive virtual campus. So revolutionizing the way students engage with their educational journey. So gone are the days of mundane Zoom classes. At Innovation Academy, students have the extraordinary opportunity to learn in a unique and deeply engaged manner. Through their virtual campus, students embark on captivating learning experiences like no other. They have the chance to customize their avatars representing themselves while navigating the virtual campus environment. It is so much fun, y'all. I mean, like, really, everyone has their own little cartoon avatar running around as they're learning, engaging with the other students. But the virtual campus is more than a visual representation. It's a platform that fosters communication, collaboration, and meaningful connections among students. Innovation Academy understands the importance of social interactions in the learning process and has seamlessly integrated into their virtual environment. Students can forge friendships, engage in group projects, and cultivate a sense of community even in the online realm. So, by leveraging cutting edge technology and forward thinking uh, educational system, they empower students to excel academically while also nurturing their social and emotional development. So, I really encourage you to visit the virtual campus. You just go to iaotampa.org. iaotampa.org. There you're going to find a wealth of information and insights into how they are transforming online learning and shaping the future of education. So, again, we truly appreciate Innovation Academy's partnership to making this event possible. So, we're going to dive back into the question and answers. So, just drop your questions and we will get to answering them. So, oh, you're so welcome. Coach Vernon, are you back? Okay, awesome. So I'm going to go back to the first question that we had. And I guess we both can dive into this. Since we're husband and wife, since our family are world traveler, is there a home base so you can comply with documenting your education compliance or you're off the grid? So yeah, we have a homeschool base in Houston, like our business and our home base educational tax base is in Texas. And so we follow the homeschool rules of the state of Texas, which is really awesome. They actually don't have a lot of requirements, and it does allow us to travel. So, hopefully, I answered that question. So, if there's any other questions, just drop them in the chat. Here, you want to dive into this one, Vernon? What measures do you have? I guess, what or how do you measure their excellence?
Absolutely. Yeah, great question. Great question. So, for if you are, you know, wanting to make sure that they're learning their hard skills, make sure they're understanding the math and science and all the different subjects. That is important, absolutely. And thankfully, with technology, this is a lot easier. Before, if you don't want to use technology, you can actually do testing yourself. There's online. Well, I guess you can still use technology, but you can actually print out tests and actually test your children and see kind of where they are on a on the academic side of things and see how they're doing math, how they're doing science, how they're doing with language arts, social studies, different subjects. You can actually do that yourself. There are also awesome applications out there like Khan Academy. Um, with our languages, we're learning languages really heavily right now. A couple of our children are fluent in Spanish. The other ones are right behind them and really getting strong in Spanish as well. So they have Duolingo. So that we're actually able to literally check their progress with Khan Academy and Duolingo. We're literally able to get in there and check their progress. Khan Academy on their basic math, science, language arts, things like that, and really see what the development is and really kind of see if we want to kind of get a kind of a hard measure for it. We can kind of see it on there with Duolingo. It lets you can see where the development is, and then one of the things that we like to do is actually on a more practical level, um, is see how they're developing and how they're actually able to put things into use. So this is a measure that this is one of the ways that we measure. Are they able to understand numbers? And like we said, we're in the business, we're really heavily in the business. Our children have businesses as well. Are they able to understand numbers when it comes to business? Are they able to implement the numbers and actually create spreadsheets and create graphs so that they know what their profits and losses are? They understand what their inventory, if they have a surplus, the different things in business and applying the numbers to their businesses. So we look at that. We observe them in their interactions in terms of the Spanish. It's great that you're doing well on Duolingo, but are you able to actually communicate when we're out? And I'll call on them to be. My Spanish is getting pretty good, but I'll call on them to be my translators, and they do well. There's no misunderstandings there around when I need them to be my translator in a really more complex situation. But they're able to do that effectively. And really, all six of them, actually. Two of them, like I said, are really strong and really fluent, but all six are able to communicate very well with Spanish. So it's like, okay, they're actually getting that. And then another great thing about being homeschooling parents my history with my father was history, social, or what we call social studies. And then one of my strengths growing up was language arts. So what I'll do in terms of our homeschooling, and then my academic training was actually in science. I studied chemistry and biology, and actually got into medicine as well. And actually practiced for about 5 years in traditional Asian medicine, and actually worked in the laboratory and research and development. So I have a strong science background as well. So I actually get involved, and one of the things that homeschooling allows us to do is I'll actually get in there and mix it up with them in terms of history, making sure they understand history and social studies, make sure they have an understanding, an Afrocentric understanding of social studies and history, and 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 all the things that encompasses psychology, sociology. Make sure their understanding is solid on a practical sense, on a more practical sense, and the same thing for science and in language arts as well. Making sure that they actually can write and they can communicate and their comprehension is what is good. So in a very practical sense too. So we'll do both. We'll get into the more the um, really standard, making sure that they can do things on Khan Academy and the different apps and their actual classwork, but then also in the practical sense, making sure that they can then take this knowledge, this information, and actually apply it, and make sure that they can actually interact with us in terms of business, in terms of their specific skill sets. That's another big thing. Their specific skill sets. Are they moving forward with their things? Each one of our children has what we call specific lessons that they'll do related to their interests and or their skill sets. So making sure that they're progressing with that. And I won't go through all six of them right now, but all six of them have skill sets that they're working on. I won't go through all six right now. I'm tempted to talk about all six, but for the sake of time, hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, and then there's also different ways to track, like softer ways, like portfolios, checklists, rubrics, um, where you can also watch the growth of your child over the ages. So, like if they're doing journaling from when they start writing until, high school ages, you can track their development. And then you have the rubrics of, okay, this is what's, acceptable. This is what's great. This is, and writing out what each one is and comparing it. There's standardized tests. There's so many ways that you can track their measurements, and not all of them have to be tests. But also, like Coach Vernon mentioned, having like online programs that kind of do it for you, which is awesome. But a lot of it is also just interacting with them. They're getting up and speaking, and like seeing how, like, oh, okay, this is how your speaking skills were here. Now you're a lot more clearer. You're more in depth. You look more confident. Your eye contact is better. So it's a mixture of different things. So it's awesome. Let's see. We had, oh, this is a question. Hold up. Vernon's your husband? Absolutely. Yes, he is. Yes. So let's see. We had, and we spoke about this a little bit. I understand your children being good people, but what skills do they have? So, yeah, I'll start off and then you could go on. Like, our children have been a part of a lot of internships. So they know how to do stocks. They literally have businesses that they've been running since 8. They know they're real estate investors. Like my oldest son and my husband recently, they like did a deal together where I think it was like a $7,000 profit for a son. And they know how to build bikes, change tires. They're great at math and science, communication. Um, husband spoke on Vernon, Coach Vernon spoke on Spanish, but we also have like the two that are really good with languages. One is getting really well in Portuguese. He also knows Swahili. Our other child who's great in Spanish is in French and Swahili. And then some of our other children are learning various languages too. And yeah, so they have actually tons of skills. I can't even, they're in coding. We have children that know how to build uh like remote control airplanes from scratch, and robotics and all of that. So, accounting and that they do for the business, hiring employees, releasing employees, all of that. So it's amazing. Do you want to speak on a little bit on their skills? And please feel free to. Thank you. Yeah, and they all cook, which is great. They all clean. So yesterday they made bagels, homemade. I don't know if you can see these homemade bagels. These are like
Yeah,
bagels made from scratch.
yeah.
Yum.
So I want to speak more in a general sense on this, on the touch to this. Um, You spoke on the specifics of our children. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Let me touch on this on a more of a general sense in terms of homeschooling and where my children develop skills. I'm going to take it from that perspective. So that is a matter of what you expose your children to. So they can go to a public school or a private school and not develop skills. There are
True.
stories about that over and over again, especially in athletes. I'm an ex-athlete as well, so I love sports. So that's a really common theme amongst really athletes who are really good. They'll get pushed through school, and you'll get people who are teenagers or even adults who don't have good reading skills and good math skills because they'll just push through and push through and push through because they're good
Literally
athletes.
illiterate.
Yeah, and you see that another, especially in the No Child Left Behind era. That was a real concern where they were really pushing children to learn these tests. But the problem was, were the children actually learning skills? To your question, were they actually developing themselves? Were they actually getting a solid understanding of the material? And unfortunately, a lot of times the answer was no. So these children were pushed through the program so that the school could keep the doors open, and they were passing these tests, but they were not developing skills. So as a homeschooling parent, what you can do is set it up so that your children are learning skills. And like we just talked about before, you're checking to make sure that they're actually understanding on a daily or weekly or monthly or however you set it up, quarterly basis. You're going back and checking and making sure that their comprehension and that they're able to actually apply these skills in real time. And you're not learning it when they're 18, 19, 20, that they don't have these skills. You can actually work with them on a, like I mentioned, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis to kind of go in and check. But as Sakile just laid out, it's unlimited the skills that your homeschooling child can develop. So whether you're concerned about academic, if you're concerned academically, then you give them academic lessons, which our children, as Sakile just went through, our children have an academic course that they go through, and we wanted to get into the other skills, the kind of the additional skills, as Kila just ran through there. So we got them in the programs. And we didn't try to do it all ourselves. We got them in the programs that can teach. I won't list all the things that Kila just mentioned, but we found programs and found free stuff and some stuff we paid for. But we got them in the programs where they literally learn these skills. So it wasn't a guessing game. It wasn't a hope game. We intentionally made sure that they got the skills in terms of academics. That's a big thing for me. I want them to learn the math. I want them to learn science. I want them to learn, language arts and social studies. That's important to me. I think that they need to have that base ground foundation, and we put that into our homeschooling program. And yes, as children do, they absorb what you expose them to. You expose them to this in a good environment and cultivate their learning. And like we talked about it earlier, we understand what their uh, yeah, well, we understood what their learning styles are, so we mold their lessons around their learning style, so they're able to pick up these skills, what's called sometimes the hard skills. They pick those up absolutely. So we've implemented those into our homeschooling curriculum. So on a daily basis, they're getting their hard skills. They're learning those, what I like to call their core skills. We have a core, or what I call actually our core lessons. They have their core lessons every day, and then they have what I call their special lessons every day. The special lessons are the stuff that they're interested in or that they're skilled in, just kind of naturally talented in. We make sure they're doing that. We also do what we call, and back in the day we would call it PE, physical education. They have some sort of an outdoor activity that they're doing every day. My sons are involved in basketball and football. My older children, my younger ones are just getting involved in that. Soccer, basketball, football. And then we have them in some other things as
Swimming,
well. So Keila mentioned
tennis.
we do swimming and tennis and martial arts and all that. My girls are involved in athletics and physical activity as well. And things that they like. They really like yoga. So the girls do yoga on a daily basis. And they also do different training. The girls as well. They like doing physical training as well, staying in shape and competing as some excellent athletes as my young ladies as well. They like to mix it up too. But and then also we have um, social skill time. We talked about the kind of good person thing. We have time for that as well in terms of different lessons just around the house or interacting with people. We have
I'm
time that we take for that
volunteering
as
too.
well. Volunteer. We have to do volunteer work and get involved in our community. Wherever we are, wherever we happen to be. Like, for instance, we're in South Central America now, so we actually get involved in the community. And the children help out and love helping out and doing things. So
Yeah,
it's
working
always
in the
fun that
gardens and stuff.
working in gardens because there's always some benefits to it. Whether it's in the garden, it's the fruits and veggies are delicious, but there's always some benefits to the children. They love those benefits. but then they have their social time and the kind of relaxation time as well, um, in their day as well. So yeah, so we're developing skills, and we're very conscious of their skill development on a daily basis, and we track those things throughout the school year. If you want to think about it in terms of the school year, we track their progress and see how they're doing, see what they're strong in, see what they need to develop. And then we also, I'll add this in here, this is important as well. We develop it or evolve it as the children age and how they're developing as on an individual basis. So as they're becoming more ready to get more involved in more complex mathematics, we'll get that introduced to them. And there's great online tools for that, and so on and so forth. I won't go through the whole program. You all hopefully that makes sense and get what I'm saying there. But so we'll match that to their development as they go through and mature, their maturity level and their understanding level of a subject. We'll ramp it up as they go.
Yes, and also getting physical, like in-person tutors, because maybe that's not the best avenue for your child to learn online. You can also bring on a tutor. So, like our daughters, they're Spanish, like our sons, they seem to do really well on the Duolingo, and our daughters do better with like a personal tutor. So they have physical people that meet with a couple times a week that will practice their Spanish with them, or you can hire someone on an hourly basis to help if you're not really great at high level math. You can hire someone that can come into the home or meet at the library that can work with your child on the higher levels. Or there's co-ops or other opportunity. It doesn't have to be online because a lot of our children are socialites and it's really important for them to, we're social beings. So it's important for us to physically get out and meet with people. So just because it's called homeschooling doesn't mean it has to take place at home. It doesn't mean it needs to be in a box of like the four corners of the four walls with just the people that live in the household. It can be an interactive, immersive experience where you are collaborating with people in your community, building new friendships and relationships. So, yeah. But this was wonderful. I want to thank Vernon, Coach Vernon. This has been awesome and amazing. So, if you have additional questions or you want to reach out for support, please email Coach Vernon at embraceyourfree.com. And if you would like help with some business services or expanding your business or starting a business, visit Vernon on LinkedIn. It's VA Speller on LinkedIn. And then also feel free to join our free workshop, which is www.embraceyourfree.com. It's going on this Monday. Please join in where you will learn how we and so can you homeschool without the stress and frustration confidently. We don't want you to be burnt out and stressed. We want it to be fun. How you can travel the world safely and affordably with your family in style, and how you can make money doing what you love from anywhere, right? To create this amazing lifestyle. So this is a workshop where you will be getting results. So join me and Coach Vernon. He's behind the scenes. You'll see him doing all the moderating, making sure that everything goes smoothly. You wouldn't be able to do it without Coach Vernon in the house. And then also support us, without your help, this would not be possible. So our Cash App is Embrace Your Free. So Embrace Your Free. So, and we always shout you out. So until next time, we're going to lead you with a quick commercial and don't stay to the end. It'll just be in a couple minutes because I do have a free book for you. So that will help you homeschool from A to Z. So until next time, you have a phenomenal rest of your day. Homeschool hugs and high fives.
Thank you, Sakile.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everybody.
Take care.